I don't know if it's right to say that this is the end of the liturgical year. How about if I say that for where we are today, celebrating the Feast of Christ the King, this is the culmination of the whole liturgical year. That is, everything's been pointing up to this point. And we find ourselves here now with our readings. And, well, I guess there's something just to think about a little bit. It's think about Jesus as our King. And you might be thinking, that might be a different way of thinking about things. We're not that familiar with kings. But let's try to think scripturally for a little bit. We can go all the way back. We can trace ourselves all the way back to the earliest days of the book of Genesis. We've got the Garden of Eden. And it's as if Adam and Eve and their actions, well, it's like they were trying to, how shall I say it, remove God from the throne, dethrone God from our hearts. And it's like all this time with our history. I don't mean history like the clock or the history books. I mean our salvation history, our story of how God has drawn us to come back to his side. It's as if he was dethroned in the Garden of Eden by Adam and Eve. Now we come back and he's looking to be part of our hearts. And we look and we see ourselves now with our readings that just point us in that direction. Think about our first reading today from the prophet Samuel. You know, the people didn't really know it at that time, but David was their king. You know, Samuel anointed him, but it was only later that people came to realize suddenly that David was their king, and they were thankful. Look at the New Testament reading we have today, particularly our gospel. The gospel we had today from Luke. We have these people here who see Jesus, and they mock him as king. They put that inscription over him on the cross. This is the King of the Jews. And the soldiers taunt him. So did the other prisoners who were crucified that day. They all stood by watching. Why don't you save others? You can't. Why don't you save others? Why don't you save us if you can't save yourself? They stood. They mocked him. But this is Christ. Christ our King. The Christ of the cross. We have Jesus on the cross. The two criminals flank him. One mocks him. The other says, "Do you not fear God? Aren't we under the same condemnation? At least we have been justly sentenced. This man has done nothing wrong." And Jesus says to him, "Will you remember me when you come into your kingdom?" And says to him, "Truly today you will be with me in paradise." We think about our readings today. We start out with David as king. The people come to recognize him eventually. Here's Jesus on the cross. He is our king, but they just can't see him. They just don't understand him that way. They don't recognize him. Where do we find ourselves in the middle of this story? Today, we know that Jesus is our king. But do we live our lives like he's our king? Do we acknowledge that? Here we are at the end of our year. The culmination of things. It gives us a chance to think a little bit. Are we ready to live our lives recognizing Jesus as King? There's so many other things that claim our attention. What rules our lives? Is it the experience of our work? Is it how we spend our money? How we spend our time? Do I really acknowledge Jesus as my King? Do I let Jesus rule in the throne of my heart? Or am I doing my own things? Jesus is the center of our lives. Let's spend this new year that starts from this weekend on. We start next week with Advent. It's our new season. Making Jesus the center of our lives. Let him be the priority in our lives. What's that phrase we heard today? Sometimes we hear it as a hymn too. Do we seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things the Gentiles are so worried about, all these things will be added unto you? Like David, like the good thief on the cross, are we ready to recognize Jesus and see him as our King? Will we put him in the throne of our hearts?